Last year, about this time, I met with our staff and I gave them all the sermons I'd be preaching this year, the Sundays I'd be preaching them on. And earlier part of the year, we refined some of them. And I'd be doing the 10 Commandments at this season. And on this Sunday in August, first Sunday in August, I'd be preaching about stop the killing. Little did we know that this weekend would be a ceasefire put in place because somebody said we got to do something about the killing. And so today, we've asked some of our friends to come talk to us and help us understand what's actually going on. President of the City Council, President Jack Young, was here with us 7:15. The mayor of the city of Baltimore, Mayor Catherine Pugh, was with us at 9:30. And I want you to put your hands together for the chief media officer, for the chief media officer of the police department, Chief T.J. Smith. Won't you come? Give him a new psalmist welcome. Chief, we are so glad to have you come and share with us today because we've been watching what's going on and wondering how we could help, what's caused this to happen. Parents are trying to talk to children and people are just worried and concerned. We thought it not robbery to invite somebody who knows more than we do to help us understand it. And so we want to, first of all, welcome you to our family.
Thank you very much for having me.
You know, you're a TV celebrity. We've been watching you. You see all the cameras go up? They're going to post you on Instagram. But one of the things that has so many people concerned or questioning is, what has caused all of this? Can you help us out?
First of all, thank you all for having me. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate it. And I want to extend a special thank you to my family who's here, Mom, my aunts, my cousin, my son. Appreciate it. My dad, appreciate it very much. But that's part of it right there, the family nucleus, and how we're losing track of that, where we're seeing people just run the streets aimlessly with no hope. And a lot of what I've done this year, and I know a lot of people understand that just a month ago I had my own personal tragedy that I had to play out publicly. But one of the things I did when I first came to Baltimore in 2015 was start a cold case show to try to keep the memory of loved ones alive. And we do that each week on WBAL radio. And what we're seeing out there, between this culture of guns, gangs, and drugs, one thing we can't do is give up hope. You just spoke about that. The guns, gangs, and drugs culture is thick, and these young men don't have a lot of hope, so that's what they turn to. And it goes back to a very popular scripture, iron sharpens iron, so a person sharpens another. And that's what we have to do. And one of the things I constantly speak to people about is what we have to do is plant seeds. Now, anybody who's a gardener, if you don't do it full time, you know you plant those seeds and sometimes they don't sprout. And sometimes they sprout late in the season. But you have to continue to cultivate them. You got to continue to nourish them. And some are going to sprout much later than others, but we have to plant it in the hearts of our young people so that they have some sort of hope. Because what we're experiencing right now is hopelessness. This is not a law enforcement problem. This is our problem. Because you can't act once we knock on your door. And
you know, you say that, and sometimes we live in the ivory towers and in the bubbles of our own community. When I grew up, your gang was your crew you hung around, you know, the people. And so some persons in the congregation are not really aware of the size, scope, or what a gang problem is. Can you kind of give us some enlightenment on that?
So these gangs are out here recruiting just like college recruiters and Army recruiters do. They're trying to get the young people to further their criminal, responsibility, what they want to do. And they know that the young people are susceptible to this stuff. So they go out and influence them, and they're penetrating the minds more than we're penetrating the minds right now. And that's a problem. And what we have to do is disrupt that pattern with our young children. We talked earlier this year, we had a 13-year-old who was arrested for assaulting Councilwoman Ricky Spector. Remember that?
Yeah.
That 13-year-old had been arrested 10 times. Something's wrong with the entire process if we're talking about a 13-year-old who's gone down that path at that soon. So this is way beyond just, again, a law enforcement answer to these problems. We have to make sure we're getting out there, dealing with the mental health, dealing with the substance abuse, dealing with the joblessness, dealing with the training, dealing with education. All of these things matter. And as long as we sit back and say we need more police, that's not answering. Locking up more people, I tell you about hopelessness. If we go out on the corners right now and we just simply tell a young man to get a job, that young man might have a felony drug conviction, and ask him how hard it is to get a job. Until we break that pattern, until we get some level of hope and offer alternatives other than what they have, we're going to continue to see this. And just because we're seeing this spike in violence, 10 years ago when we had 235 murders, we shouldn't be satisfied with that. We shouldn't be our own worst enemy. And I spoke at my brother's funeral, and I told the young people there that the KKK has no business coming to Baltimore because we're doing the job for them. We're allowing ourselves to ethnically cleanse ourselves, and we don't know who we're killing off. We're killing off people that could potentially turn themselves around, because many of them are in the game. But these people could do things years from now that help many others never even go down that path.
Wow. Many persons in the congregation have been affected by this. And you have been reporting it to us over the television airwaves and giving us a glimpse into the difficult nature of trying to bring some kind of halt to it. But when it hit you, when it hit your door, what word would you have to us? Not as a police officer, but as a person that could help, maybe something we could do.
I'm human like everybody else. I have a job that's public, and it makes things sometimes a bit more difficult. And on June 30th, it was a Friday, I'm taking my first week and a half long vacation. Had a birthday coming up July 11th. July 2nd, I'm steaming crabs. Got a half a bushel of crabs, and called my mom, and she said, I'll come over tomorrow, but I wanted her to have some hot crabs. So I got in my car and drove over and dropped the crabs off. And as I'm pulling back up in my driveway, I get messages of every single thing that happens in the city. And I see my brother's name come across my phone. I'm in denial, but I knew it was him because of his name. I send a message to our commander who was on scene, and he tells me that it's my brother. Well, he tells me we don't have this, the ID that's in his pocket, and he says, with respect, I can send a picture to you. I let him send a picture to me, and I saw my brother deceased with $2 in his hand. What I know about most of this violence is people that know one another, that are involved in the game, that are involved with one another, that are executing each other on these streets. And I believe my brother's case is a mistaken identity where someone thought that he did something that someone else did, but the person who did it to him knew. But the gravity of the decision that person made ruins a family forever. There are kids now without a father, and you just have to hold your breath and hope that those kids don't go down a path without having some sort of direction and leadership. And now that adds to the stress of the family to try to make sure that happens. But that's the level where people are only seeing what's right in front of them. Tell you guys a quick story real quick. I know my man Ray Lewis is getting some bad press lately, but we're not going to talk about his bad press. He truly cares about the city of Baltimore. And just 2 weeks ago, we went out to Sagamore Farm, him and I, and there were 3 different camp groups, all from the city of Baltimore, of young people who are involved in some different things. And they're at the Sagamore Farm, not in Owings Mills. We're 10 minutes from the city of Baltimore. And they're seeing things they've never seen before as they look across the landscape, and they felt like they were way out in the country. We have to make sure our young people are seeing more than what's right in front of them, because that's how they're making decisions. They're making decisions based on a spur-of-the-moment decision. So until we provide hope, until we disrupt that pattern, until we let them know we care about you. I've had young people tell me they don't think anyone cares. Enough with the anger, enough with cursing them out. Sometimes it's okay with just being disappointed in them. And we have to be disappointed in their actions as opposed to lash out with anger and hostility, because all that's doing is breeding potentially another criminal. And until we disrupt that pattern, we're going to keep having these conversations. But I have to say this because I'm at Bishop Thomas's church. So slap 5 with your neighbors and tell them, we're not going to give up. We can't give up. We cannot give up. And a quick story, when I first accepted the position in Baltimore, we're coming out of the riots, just after the riots, and the commissioner called me, who he wanted to be here. He's in another state right now at a conference about some solutions, and he sends his goodwill, of course. But when I was offered the job, I took the job, and it was put on the news, and I saw a man out in public, and he pulls me up. He says, man, if they would have called me, I wouldn't have taken that job. I said, well, they didn't call you, and they wouldn't have called you. And I said, it's people like you that talk from the sidelines instead of getting involved to solve the problems. I ain't got time for that. And this ceasefire that we're doing this weekend, the national media doesn't give a crap about Baltimore. They want us to lower our expectations to what their expectation is. My inbox was full yesterday with messages as soon as someone sneezed. Was that a shooting? Was that a stabbing? We want to know. And I told him, you'll wait until we talk about it. And the success of the ceasefire is not based on any tragedies that took place yesterday. It's based on the conversation that's been started by the grassroots effort of people that are sick and tired of what's going on in our city. And that's all of us.
Come on, New Psalmist. Give him a hand. We know there's a positive, powerful force in our police department who is determined to work hard to turn things. Come on, give him a big hand so he knows he has our support. Man. Praise God. Look at God, church.